Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show. My name is Justin Nava, founder of Nava Church Marketing, and I want more churches to be known in their community. I want more churches to be the cornerstone of their community, kind of like how it used to be. I know we always look at the history in rose-colored glasses, but you used to not have school activities on Sundays, travel ball on the weekends. It was unheard of. Businesses used to be closed on Sundays till lunch because there was no business to be had before lunch, and driveways used to be empty on Sunday mornings because people were going to church because the church was serving the people. But somehow along the way, despite the Jesus revolution, the churches said, you know what? We're going to just stay over here, and if you need us, we'll be here. But we're going to make disciples by having classes and reading books and waiting for you to come with us instead of doing what we're supposed to do, which is going and making disciples. And I fully believe that every believer is called to make disciples. It's not necessarily the pastor is the head disciple maker. The pastor should be discipling. But it is the job and duty and calling and commission of believers to go out and make disciples. And in 2024 and beyond, I fully believe this, it is easier to tell people about Jesus if they've already been seasoned, right? I say seasoned. Some people say, if the seed has already been planted. I say seasoned because we want to season our community in what the church is doing in the name of Christ. And we want people to already have an idea that Christ is working in this community. God is working in this community. This church is doing good work. And when I meet someone from this place and they tell me about the gospel, number one, it may not be the first time I'm hearing about it. Number two, I've already heard about this church. So it's not, what is this? What are they trying to get me into? It's, I've already heard about this. They do good work. So therefore it must be worth something listening to. Number three, it just becomes easier if someone does want to invite someone to church. If your church is best equipped to evangelize and share the gospel in small group, in worship service, some churches are like that. I would say many churches are like that. Probably most churches are like that. Then it becomes easier to make that invite if someone has already heard about your church, even checked out your church. That's why we do outreach events. That's why we do, that's not why we do missions events, but that's why we promote missions events, because we want people to come in. We want people to recognize that we are doing good work. We are overflowing with Christ's love. And when they find out about your church, we want them when they find out about your church and they go to your website, we want them to see what they need to see to take action, right? The purpose of your website is to nurture people in their discipleship journey and in their discipleship journey with your church. Every church has a unique discipleship journey. Every church is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. If that was not the case, every city would just have one church. But we have multiple churches speaking different languages with different styles, meeting at different times with different auxiliary ministries. And so we need to do whatever it takes to make sure that the people God is calling to him, that we are best equipped to serve, that they know us and they can easily connect with us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because when people, 9 out of 10, I think the number is 92%, but I'll be conservative and say 9 out of 10. When someone's going to go somewhere, they look online first. They look at your website. And the question is, when someone sees your website, are they drawn in to what Christ can do in them through your church? Or are they pushed aside, feeling like this is not a place that they can belong? And if they are pushed aside, two things can happen. Number one, they continue on their apathetic journey to hell. Or number two, and I know that's harsh, or number two, they use that pull that they have to then shop for a different church. And that other church is either, number one, doing good work, but not equipped to effectively serve them well with excellence. Or number two, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing and they're called away from God's legitimate calling, and they are pulled aside to chase a fake Christianity. And so when we talk about church websites, we're not talking about, yes, does it attract? Yes. Does it persuade? Yes. But ultimately, we are removing obstructions and trying to create a clear path for people to find Christ in your church, in your fellowship, and in your congregation. That was not the intro I had planned, but man, that was on my heart. So Jose, I hope you clip that, because I think that's going to be some good stuff. So knowing that when someone is looking at your church, they're going to look at your website. Therefore, your website needs to invite people and warmly welcome people, just as if they were to show up in person, shake someone's hand, and be guided to the nursery, to the restroom, to the sanctuary, ushered in, so to speak. Your church website should do all of that for you. That's what we expect. Okay. If I'm going to go to a restaurant, I'm going to look online, see what the menu's like, learn a little bit about the chef. Maybe if it's a nice restaurant, they have information about the chef. And it's going to create excitement. I'm going to look forward to it. I'm less likely to back out. So if you can have your website not only speak good about the church, not only speak good about Jesus, but get the website visitor inspired and excited to see what God has for them, and be excited to connect and engage with your church, your website becomes a tool of ministry. It's not a brochure you hope works. It's an asset you know will work. And then your question no longer becomes, what do we do with our website? It becomes, how do we bring more people to our website? Right? We know VBS works for your church. I have yet to, and please let me pray for you. Please comment below if you have a VBS, if you're doing VBS every summer and you're like, these kids are not accepting Christ, there is no gospel here, this is a dead ministry, please tell me so I can pray for you. But I have yet to experience a church that has a VBS, that even small ones, like I'm talking like where 10 or 11 kids are coming, where they do a VBS and a kid doesn't make a decision to follow Christ, doesn't accept Christ as his Lord and Savior and repent. I've yet to see that happen. So the question doesn't become, what do we teach about VBS this year? Do we have a VBS this year? The question then becomes, how do we get more kids here? Because if we can introduce 2 out of 12 kids to Christ, then if we can get 20 kids here, maybe 4 or 5 can make the decision to follow Christ and become brothers or sisters in Christ. So I don't want the question for you to be, should we have a website? What should be on the website? Although that's what we're talking about today. I want you to get to the point where you're saying, how do our websites working? How do we get more people to our website? And that's where we go into the full Nava method. But I'm gonna back away from that for a season, because I really want to help churches focus on their website. Can you get people to church without your website? Absolutely. Should you be able to get people to your church without your website? I think so. I think you should be able to. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Because again, people have a habit. We are in an information age. And when people want to do something, take an action, they want some information ahead of time. It used to be, you used to have to walk into a car lot and talk to the salesman, and everything you knew about this car was given to you by the salesman. A lot of churches treat church like that now, where everything you want to know about Jesus and need to know about Jesus and need to know about our church, you're going to find out on Sunday morning. And that's why people aren't going to church, because there's not enough information there. Whereas nowadays, if I want to buy a car, I know the differences between the models, the differences between the distributors. I know the price points of every car within 5 miles of the one I want. I know the different packages or trims of each car that I want, the different colors that are available on each lot. And I can probably get a quote online and walk in with an email saying, the dealership over here is going to give me the car for this financing, and can you do better than that? And I ain't walking into a dealership. Many people are not walking into a dealership without that kind of information. And that's just to buy a car. So imagine how much more information and how much assurance and persuasion they need to go visit a place and be surrounded by strangers for 90 minutes to hear a message about a God they're unsure of, that they've probably hated up until this point, till they feel that calling. There's a lot standing in your way between a guest deciding to go to church and actually coming to your church. So I want your website to do 2 things today. Number 1, I want your website to be focused on the guest and Jesus and your church, but your church is really the vehicle. Your church is not the answer. Your church is not the destination. The kingdom is. Okay. And then I want your church to become more inspirational not informational. Meaning, I don't want people to just know your church, or like you don't want people just to know of the gospel or know of God. I don't want them to know of your church. I want them to know your church and feel connection and feel understood so they can then connect with you in person so you can share the gospel with them and make disciples in the way that you're best equipped to do. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're not going to spend too much time today because, number one, as you can hear, I'm getting over a sickness. It's one of those things where like I feel okay during the day, but at night it just hits me when I'm all verklempt and just making all kinds of noise. I'm like walking across the house and my wife is like, "What do you keep grunting about?" And I'm like, "I'm tired," and just ugh. So I appreciate you dealing with me on this. And if at any point during the live show or during the replay, you have a question, a comment, rebuttal, criticism, critique, by all means, leave a comment. And if you do like this show, please like it because that helps us reach more people. We just surpassed 25,000 views. I'm very excited for that. I talked about that on yesterday's show. It is a vanity metric, but hey, it's something that at least we're getting out there, right? So it's one of those things of optimization. You can't optimize something people aren't looking at, right? If I can get people to a website, I would rather see 1,000 people come to a website with an 80% bounce rate, meaning 4 out of 5 people leave without doing anything, than see 100 people come to the website and 700 people never click on it, because you can only optimize so much without that traffic. So I'm very thankful to see what people are looking at, what's getting their interests, and helping me optimize to create more content that's going to help people. And so one of the things that kind of spurred this conversation we're having today is a lot of church leaders are redesigning their site, but they're feeling like they're missing something. Like they feel like they have a design, but they don't know what should be in the site. And the question becomes, I have a lot of times like writing a brochure or writing a social media template or taking a social media template and making it for your church. I know what the design is going to look like. I know what the colors are. I just don't know what to put on there. So a lot of churches will sign up for a ChurchGo site or a Squarespace site or a Tithely site, whatever you do, Subsplash site. I have a video on the different website builders that I recommend if you're going to do it on your own. But they don't know what to put on there. And so I'm going to help you answer those questions today. First, I want to go over what I'm seeing right now on a lot of church websites versus what we do and what we see works. Because why would you do something that doesn't work? To help churches keep people on their website. Okay. So right now you're probably at the stage where you're just trying to figure out the website. You may not be at the stage where you're like, it's working, so I want to drive more traffic there. That's a different talk, which maybe we'll get to at the end of the year. So right now we're just focused on, what do we put on this website? So in short, like I mentioned, a lot of church websites, we focus a lot on information about the church. And it seems intuitive. And if you thought that, it's not your fault, because it's almost backwards, right? It's almost like someone's like, well, I can't pray or go to church because I got to get myself right. And you're like, no, you don't have to. The church is for sick people. The church is for the lost. The church is for the hurting. Christ said, come to me because I will take the burden off. My yoke is easy. He didn't say, get your stuff ready, get your stuff right, and then come and follow me, right? After we follow him, that's when we start ditching the stuff. But at the same time, we need to make sure that our church website showcases that information about Jesus Christ, because when people come to church, we don't want them just to come to church, right? We don't want just butts and seats. We want butts in the kingdom, if I can say that. We want people following Christ. That's what we want. Okay. And all this argument about what church should look like and that's all, like, we can have those discussions, but ultimately I want to bring people to Jesus. I want people to follow Jesus. And it's very hard for them to follow Jesus if all we do is pitch them on following the church. So the church website needs to focus on Jesus, needs to focus on the journey the potential guest is about to embark on. And the church is merely the tool. So the first thing that we need to wrap our heads around is understanding that the church website isn't necessarily about the church. It's about Jesus and the guest and the connection of the two, which happens through the church. Meaning you're going to talk a little bit more about your guest and a little bit more about Jesus and their transformation in him. a little bit more than the church itself. Okay. Now, that's not to say you're going to hide your like, oh, follow Jesus before we tell you our service times. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, instead of saying, this is what we are, this is what we believe, this is where we are, this is the ministries we have, instead of that's like what I see a lot of now. And that's why people think, well, this church, they believe the same things everyone else does. And I didn't get along with this church, so I'm not going to get along with your church. Instead of that, we need to say, this is what Jesus can do in your life. This is what Jesus is doing in our ministries. We believe Jesus is going to do this, which is why we want to invite you to be a part of this, so you can experience the same transformation and live a fulfilled life. And when you take that first step with us Sunday mornings at 11 at this location, here's what you can expect for the rest of your life if you follow Jesus. Right? So we're not necessarily making a gospel presentation, but we're showing a little bit of like, we understand where you're feeling, we understand your needs, and we know that Jesus is the answer we want to connect you to at our church. You see how that's much more inspirational? Because I feel A, I want C, I need to go through B, that's your church. Versus I feel A, I don't know about C, and all you're telling me is about B. I don't think B's the answer. No one is staying awake, rolling over at night saying, man, I wish I just had a service time that was late enough I could sleep in a little bit. Man, I just wish I had some ministries that I could go visit. No. You're saying, I wish I was loved more. I wish I was wanted more. I wish I could figure out they don't say my purpose in life, but I wish I could figure out what I'm supposed to do with myself. I wish I could figure out how to stop this addiction. I wish I could figure out how to break this toxic relationship. And if you come up to that person and just say, hey, our church is great, I'd love to help you, and we can tell you all about that Sunday at 11. And if you can't make it at that time, tough luck. So we don't want to have information about the church be the sole purpose of the website. We will have information. It's not the sole purpose. It's not the sole message. Okay, you don't get up and preach on Sunday morning. Oh, look how great we are. If you do, I'll find out, and we probably won't work together. I'll be praying for you though. You don't stand up and say, "Welcome to our church. This is such a great church. We meet at this time. We meet at this place, and then here's all the announcements. Aren't we so good? Amen. Let's go." No. We say, "Welcome to our church. We're all sinners. We're all hurting. Jesus Christ has the Spirit has convicted us and called us to something better through Jesus Christ, who has sacrificed himself for us. And we are so glad you're here, because the same transformation that saved a wretch like me is available to you." And we're gonna have an outpouring of our thankfulness and gratitude for what God has done, doing, and going to do. And then pastor's going to come up and preach about Jesus and the covenant that he made and the sacrifice that he made. And then we want to invite you to be a part of that, to accept that sacrifice, to release that burden. And then you spend a few minutes on announcements about the church. The same way that you structure service all around Jesus, your website can be structured around Jesus. And we're going to talk about what that looks like in a second. The other thing that a lot of folks do, and I still see this, I don't see it as much, I'm not going to touch on it as much, is scrolling. Okay, you open up Facebook, you open up Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever, what have you. The thing you do when you want more is you scroll, right? But for some reason, some churches on their website, you land on the homepage, I want to learn more, and the website just kind of bounces because there's nothing else to scroll to. And then I got to kind of maneuver my phone and start clicking. I don't like that. No, people don't like that. We are a scrolling, I don't want to even say generation. We are a scrolling time now, where if we want more information, we will scroll. And so a mistake that I see on a lot of churches is they just have like a welcome banner, and then you just got to start clicking to find what you want. Imagine you open up Instagram and you're like, or Facebook, and then you're like, what's going on in the world? Let me start clicking around. That's, to me, that sounds exhausting. It's already exhausting. Like, oh, why doesn't Facebook show me like my mom's posts? I know she's thinking like, why doesn't Facebook show my post? I just found out I have a cousin that's pregnant, and she's been pregnant for like six months. And I'm like, Facebook never told me. I hate that. But I also use Facebook mostly for business. So if someone comes to your website, so here's what happens. Someone will come to your website. It'll say, welcome home, service at 10:30. They're like, okay, interesting. I can make that time. Scroll, nothing else. Okay, well, I'm out. There's nothing else to learn about this church. So that's a big mistake that I see. And that used to work. Doesn't work anymore. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the last thing that a lot of churches that makes church websites unhelpful is their websites are not complete. They're not consistent across the information it offers between different things. And it's hard for me to say. So let me explain what I mean. Imagine like you have all your ministry pages, and I see church websites a lot that will be like, here's our kids ministry. And I click and it's like, all right, we meet at this time. We call ourselves Mission Kids because we're on mission. And here's our leader. Okay, cool. Well, I also have a daughter in 6th grade now, so let me go look at the youth ministry. And it's like, bam, youth ministry. We've got here's a welcome video. Here's some videos from our camps. Here's where we meet, when we meet. Here's some of the things that our students say. Here's an FAQ. Here's our release forms. Here's the curriculum that we're looking at. And it's like, this youth page has got it going on. What's wrong? My thought, what's wrong with the kids ministry that all they can do is tell us we meet at this time and this is the person your kid's going to see. Like the youth ministry is banging. What's wrong with the kids ministry that they can't tell me their curriculum? They don't have stories of life change. They're not doing events. They don't have any pictures. Listen, we know on this side of the door, it's like release, security stuff. But on that side of the door, it's like, I don't know what I'm walking my kid into. Doesn't exactly feel like a safe scenario. So inconsistency across different things. Same thing if I see the homepage and it's like, oh yeah, look, here's welcome, here's a map, here's service times, here's a message from our pastor, here's our sermon, and then click here to plan a visit. And I click to plan a visit, and it's like, hey, we're excited to have you. We meet at this time, park here. And again, there's not a lot of information there for me to feel comfortable making a decision because the experience throughout the website is inconsistent. And consistent is why no matter what page you're on in Instagram or X or Google, whatever, like there's always a scrolling experience because that's what we come to expect. The moment you kill that, you're going to create distrust. Because if you tell me a lot of great information about your events coming up, but then I look on your missions page and there's a mission and vision, but no core values, it's like, well, I don't know what these guys believe other than doing a bunch of events. So, consistency across your pages is necessary. So that's if you look at your website and you see one of those 3 things, I'm going to help you kind of correct that today. And I know we're going to talk a lot about what to do and not necessarily how to do it, because that is going to take a lot longer, of which I would encourage you down below. There is a link and we're going to get into more answers here in a second, but I want to make sure you're aware of this. There's a link down below, how to convert your website visitors to in-person guests, where we talk about how you can structure your church website to create a great first impression of your church. Not an outdated one, not a disorganized one, but one that is clean, simple to utilize, and how to continue improving it so you can see more people come into your church using your website. Your website should be an invaluable asset. It should be like a 24/7 greeter that's going out, welcoming people and nurturing them to come to church, bringing them to your front doors. That training down below in the description will help you do that. So let's go over the 3 things you need to do. Number 1, focus on, and I kind of already talked about this, but you need to focus on the guest, Jesus, and how your church is the in-between. Focus on their transformation. So, for example, if your website right now says, welcome to First Baptist, you'll feel at home here. Okay. That's, again, people aren't really saying, oh man, I wish I could just feel at home somewhere. I feel at home here in my house. I have multiple rooms where I feel at home. I feel at home in my living room. I feel at home in my game room. I feel at home in the kitchen. And I also feel at home in my bedroom. So, I have plenty of places where I feel at home. Maybe I don't have a nice house. Maybe I don't have a good home, And I'm like, oh, I just wish I could feel comfortable somewhere. Guess what? If I'm only welcome in your building, if you're going to lock the building 90 minutes after I show up, that's not exactly a place where I feel welcome home. It feels kind of like my house right now, where my dad says, get out of the house. I need you out of the house for 2 hours while I do something. I don't know. Your parents ever tell you to go in the backyard for like 30 minutes growing up? Anyways, so, you have to really think about, what is the guest dealing with? The potential guest that's coming to your website, what are they dealing with right now? Okay. And you say, welcome home. What do you really mean by that? Because, again, I may not feel like this is a place. Okay. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when businesses are like, we're a family. No, you're not. Like, I will never tell my team that we're family, because we're not. Okay. I love my team. I'm so thankful to God for them. I will pay them as much money as I possibly can to do the job that they're doing for my clients and for me. But we are not family, because they work on a contract. Family does not work on a contract. All right. If I fall short and I disappoint my dad so many times, he's not going to say, you know what, you're not really working out here. Or if we fall on hard times, I'm not going to look at my daughter and say, you know what? Yeah, it's just, we can't afford to feed you, so you're just going to have to leave. Stop saying businesses, we're like a family. We're not like a family. We're like a team. Okay? But we're not like a family. So when your church says welcome home, guess what? I don't open the doors to my home only from 9 to 12 on Sundays, and then from 8 to 5, and then you got to get out, because I don't have a chaperone here for you, right? It's not a home. Okay, so for rant over. Now, we do have a church family, and that can create a sense of belonging. So maybe you speak more to that sense of belonging, sense of being desired, sense of there's people that care about you, right? So instead of like, welcome to First Baptist so-and-so, a place to welcome home, all right, maybe you can speak more to the guest's desire for something more in life, desire for relationships, right? Maybe it could be a place where you can be lifted up instead of torn down, a place where you can be encouraged instead of constantly beaten down. Maybe it's a place where you can feel like you're able to be yourself. I hate that there's sometimes my daughter comes home from school and like she can't feel like she wants to tell, she doesn't feel okay telling me what's wrong with her. And that's my fault. And so again, you're going to look more at your guests. So anything you do on your website, think about how your guest fits into that. A great example. Do I still have it open? Let me see. I was just on this site the other day and I was like, man, this is such a good church website. Okay, so Ark Church in Conroe, right there when you open up, you can difference. It's got a couple other messages that are going to flash across the screen. You can live for God. The whole message is you can. So when someone, so there are people in this area that feel like they're just not good enough. But when they learn about this church, Ark Church, this is possible, not through the church, but through Jesus, in which the church is a vehicle to make that introduction and build that person so they can live for God. So think about who your guest is, what they're dealing with. Now, how can Jesus transform that, change that, and uplift them? That becomes your website message. And then instead of view all our ministries, if what they're feeling is like they need a place of belonging, ministries for every season of life, ministries where you can belong, ministries for your family. If you have worship service, instead of watch online or even worship online, join our family online. You could do something. Check us out first online. See if this is a place you can belong, right? How cool is that? Like if I go to this, I'm not sure, and then I scroll and I see like, still not sure. Test us out online, right? And we're not supposed to test God. Let's test the church, right? I'm just thinking out loud here, but that's what your church website can do. Speak to someone's needs instead of the church's needs. If you ever have any questions, like, hey, I'm thinking about saying this, I'm not sure about that, comment on this video, comment on any video. And I'd love to, while I have the time, speak into that a little bit. Okay. The scrolling homepage, just real quick. I mean, go to, actually, because I have a resource for this, go to novachurchwebsite.com. You can actually get my whole homepage framework. You can see what a scrolling homepage looks like. It's got a welcome. It's got information about the transformation Jesus can do in someone's life. Of course, it has information about the church. It's got a welcome from the pastor, showcases the ministries, showcases the gospel change that's the gospel transformation that's happening in the lives of people here, which, by the way, when people see testimonials, they don't see what God's doing. They don't so much see what God's doing in the lives of your church. They're seeing that if God can do it in them, maybe they can do it in me. Same as like watching a workout infomercial. Well, if it works for that guy, maybe it'll work for me. If that guy I got 160 pounds to lose. If that guy can lose 160 pounds, then maybe I can too. That guy looks like me. Maybe I can fit. Does that make sense? And then you include like a secondary call to action. There's a lot of things you can include. You probably won't be able to include it all, and that's okay. But if you can have a scrolling introduction to your church on your website, you can go to Nava Church's website and get that framework. You will basically, by the time they get to the bottom of the page, they'll have a complete visual idea of not only your church, but what Christ can do for them through your church. And that's one of our secrets for conversion is if we know if we can get people to scroll, we've got a 60-something% chance. I don't know what the number is. We got a 60-something% increased chance that they'll click through. All right. That's what we want. We want people to click through the plan of visit so we want micro commitments, right? In the same way, you don't just walk up to a woman like, oh, you're so pretty, can I marry you? It's like, no, let's go on a date. Let's go on another date. Let's meet our parents. Let's talk about things. Let's go on a more serious date. Let's meet your friends. Then we propose. Right? Micro commitments. We don't want to just slam everything at once and demand all or nothing. It's very easy to fall into that. But we can nurture guests through micro commitments on our website. And the last thing is consistent information. You want to have consistent information on your site. If your kids page has welcome from the kids pastor, your youth page needs it, your greeter ministry page needs it, your mission page needs it. If you have it on one page, you need it on all the pages. And this is more for the ministry pages, but yeah, if you're going to have an events page, events is another good example. If you got 3 events at your church, let's say coffee with a cop, internet safety boot camp for parents, and maybe a back to school bash. Now the coffee with a cop, you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna meet at McDonald's. We're going to have coffee, and we're just going to talk about how we can keep our community safe because we care about our community. And you're going to meet Officer Johnson, and we're going to provide coffee and donuts, and we're going to go from this time to this time. We're asking you to park in the back of the parking lot so the rest of McDonald's, like, oh, that's great. And then you go to the back to school bash, and it's like, back to school bash, Saturday, August 24th at 6 p.m. See you there. You see how there's like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the coffee with the cop. I might not go to the back to school bash because I have no idea what I'm expected of this place or what this is going to, I have no idea what I'm walking into. So having consistent, so always ask, who's invited, where is it, when is it, why should I care? What's the event going to be like? What am I going to be like after the event? How much is it going to cost? Where should I park? You should have consistent number of questions to ask for every event and make sure every event has that. Even if the event's at your church, you should still put a location on the event page, because if it's not at your church, you're going to have the location there. So the ones that are at your church, people don't know as much as you think they do. So if I see ice cream truck, free ice cream, and then I see toddler reading time, and it says free ice cream truck is in the parking lot, toddler reading time is at the library, and then I see another event, Coffee with a Cop, let's say, and there's no location, I don't know where that's going to be. Is it going to be in the parking lot? Does my kid get to play with the sirens? Is it going to be like I don't know. Having that, and again, you're like, Justin, like they would just come to the church and walk in the front door. You would think that that's not always the case, especially when it comes with church where there is so much baggage. People will find like I said at the very beginning of this video, your website is about removing obstacles. Yes, it's about persuasion. Yes, it's about information. Yes, it's about inspiration. It's also about removing obstacles in people's way to get them to come to you so that you can love them in the way Christ loved them and disciple them to follow Jesus. So anything you assume they will know, just assume they don't know. A lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll tell me, well, I guess he just didn't. I say, you guess? Bro, their eternal life is on the line. You're going to answer for the work that you're doing in Christ. God's going to look at your ministry and have you account for every action you ever did. And you're going to tell him, I guessed that he didn't want to hear it. You better know that person told you, no, I'm not interested. You better know that you did everything you could to bring people to Christ, including making sure that they're aware of what the church can do in them to point them, to bring them to Christ, to live a fulfilled life, to have the relationship that God desires for them. Whew, okay. Anyways, so having that consistent information, and there's a story, I can't remember. I think it was a Chrysler. I can't remember the story exactly. So there was the CMO of Chrysler, and he's walking in his office and he sees this advertisement on the wall. He walks past it every day for a couple months. And then he walks into another office and he says, man, I am so tired of this campaign. Are we still running this campaign? And the guy in the office, maybe it's the president, the guy in the office says, we haven't even launched that campaign yet. It's still in the planning stage. And he was already tired of it. So by the time we get tired of something, your community, your church, your congregation, your people, your guests, they're probably just about to catch on. And if you're constantly spinning your wheels, like nothing's catching, nothing's sticking, it's because you're throwing so much so fast, people can't catch up. Instead of giving them 30 seconds to prepare for your pitch, you're just throwing ball after ball after ball after ball after ball. And it's like, why do I even get set? I'm not even going to be ready for the next one, to use baseball terms. So you have to be consistent. And yeah, you're going to get bored of it. You're going to get bored of writing, who is this for? This is for everyone within our Butner neighborhood. When is it? It's Sunday morning at 10:30. Where is it? It's in our church. Okay, what? Wait, where? Put a room number, room 305. The only reason you should not put a room number is if security is a concern. But being lazy is not a security concern. Where should I park? Park in the church parking lot. If your church has more than one entrance, be specific. All right. I cannot tell you how many times I use an app and I appreciate when it says, enter on Fannin, enter on Congress. You're going to go down, turn right on Congress, which is a one-way street, and then you'll enter from the right. Like, I appreciate that. How much do you appreciate that? Wouldn't you love your church to be appreciated as much as you appreciate a stupid parking garage for telling you which street to enter on? Same thing with the doors. If you don't have good signage, tell people, even if you do have good signage, enter through the main entrance. If you feel like people just aren't showing up, it's not because they don't care. It's because you've put an obstacle in front of them, or you haven't removed the obstacle that's in front of them. So having that consistent information is key, and over communicating is key. If you're in the military, you understand this, right? It's cool saying over when you're playing walkie-talkie with your friends. But when you're in a battle situation, that over is going to mean the difference between the message is over and I can now act, or I'm going to sit there waiting and wondering if something happened to you. Okay, go green. Or what, a green light. I can't remember. So I'm not a military guy. I just watch a lot of interviews and documentaries and stuff. That stuff is life-saving. So how much more do we need to communicate? It is better to, in ministry, it is better to over communicate than under communicate. You're going to have to answer. And would you rather tell God, yeah, I did everything to make sure that someone knew about you and how you can serve them through our church? Would you rather say that, or rather say, you know what, I tried. Yeah, I could have done something else. That's honestly why I'm awake and doing this show right now, because I'm tired. I went to sleep 30 minutes late. I woke up an hour early. I had to deal with money issues this morning. I'm not feeling good. I have a hernia. But I'm here because I care about you guys, because you are on the front lines and you don't know what you don't know. And I'm here to tell you what you don't know so that you can reach more people and invite them into your faith community so you can make disciples. Because the world we live in, I would much rather be a kids pastor or work in missions. But God has given me a calling and an equipping to help you communicate your church better to your community. So that's what I'm here to do. And the only time I'll drop that is if I'm just physically unable, or if, like last week, it was the last day before school started, so I wanted to spend the day with my kids, because that's a more important ministry than you guys. No offense. So again, if you want to see that scrolling homepage framework, go to NavaChurchWebsite.com. When you get that framework, by the way, there's a training afterwards. Same training as the one below, but it is a little bit more succinct. The training below is about 40 minutes long. After you download the website framework, you'll get most of the same information. It's about 10 to 12 minutes long. And it's just because at that point, you have more, you want to get to the homepage. So I'm not going to stand in your way to do that. So thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the video. To quote Kevin, what's his name? I can't remember, the Superior Theology guy. If you didn't like this video, click the dislike button twice. I love that. But I appreciate you guys for watching, dealing with my throat, but I hope you all have a blessed week. Do good work this week, and I'll see y'all in the next video.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.